Good morning. How's your day going aside from, talking to media people and, talking about yourself a lot? Good day?
Yeah, in fact, I'm having a summer break for a
Yeah.
couple of weeks before we hit the tour again. So it's been nice. I just recently moved to Finland. I'm from Finland originally, but I lived in the States for 11 years in between. So good to be back in Finland, and just I knew what to expect when I get here, so it's easy.
Right. You were living in Florida, right?
Yeah, the recent place. I lived in Florida for 3 years, and before that, I lived in Hawaii for 3 years and in LA. So kind of like been moving around a lot.
So that's something I'm very curious about because you've lived all these places, then your band has had different successes in different countries all the time. And the next few months, you're going to be playing in Ukraine, Mexico, the US, Finland, etc. So what I'm curious about is how do you do this where you have these different hits in different countries, the members of the band living in different places all the time? How does that work?
Yeah, it works surprisingly well, actually. I mean, like there was a time when we had band members. One of them lived in Australia. I lived in
Mhm.
the US, and one guy lived in Singapore. So like it was like in four different countries. And then when we had a tour, let's say we had a Latin American tour, we met in Mexico City. We had like
Yeah.
rehearsals. We booked a place where to rehearse for 2 days, and then we hit the tour, and that was it works surprisingly well. I mean, it's just we're so used to nowadays talking over the phone like this, and um, when it comes to doing something like videos or recording music or writing songs, then obviously we would go together somewhere. But I
Hmm.
mean, it's kind of like it's a long career. We've had this band for 30
Yeah.
years, so we know what how to like deal with stuff like that. So but now the thing is that we live in the same country after many years, and it feels great. I actually have my bandmates coming to see my new house, which is empty at the moment. I have my stuff arriving to Finland from Miami like next week. So it's like when I get the house kind of finished, I'm asking the guys to come here. I'm building a little studio here. Maybe we can record something. It's good to be in the same country.
Yeah, going back to the history of the band, there are some very famous bands besides yours where the members were together in high school. Some of the Red Hot Chili Peppers were in high school, Clutch, all of them were playing together in high school, etc. Were any other bands from your high school still playing after high school, or is your band the only one?
I think we're the only one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's pretty unique to have this long career. Like usually, especially when people are young and like below 30, they change a lot. Like
Yeah.
when we put the band together, we were like 14, 15 years old on the eighth grade. And it's a kind of a miracle we survived this far. But
Yeah.
I've been always asked, what is the secret? But I think it's honesty. Like Finnish people, we are very honest people. Like it may be rude sometimes, but we say what we think, and like it's like there's no like bullshitting. So I think that's one of the reasons that we we could survive. And if there and when there's trouble and arguments or whatever, just gotta have to try to solve them like right there.
Yeah. So
Not
the band, to rudely interrupt you, sorry about that.
no, it's fine.
I know from doing research that the band went international with the fourth record, Into. So, in other words, in 2001, around then, you finally went international, but it was more of a European approach. When did the band become more international to start touring and focus on North America? Do you remember which album that happened?
Yeah, that was the fifth album with a song called In the Shadows. That was like the biggest and still the biggest song we've ever had.
Mhm.
It was kind of a crossover between rock and pop, and back in those days, it was played like in all the radio station and went number one in like so
Yeah.
many countries, and that was kind of the big hit for us, and that was the first time we were able to go to, we went to Mexico and Latin America. We went to, we played in places like Thailand and Taiwan, and like all over the place. But so that was the fifth album. But I think it was very good for us to have that first, like that 10 years, so to speak, where we could rehearse and sort of get ready for the bigger success. I think that's also made us stronger, and we could sort of take that big fame that came a little bit later because we had been working our asses off, to
Yeah.
get there. So it was kind of deserved.
Yeah, that was about 10 years into your career at that point, which is
Yeah,
great. And you've had now about 20 years since then. So when
yeah.
you're playing live in the Ukraine in the near future, in a couple of weeks, is it the same kind of set list that you'd be playing in Mexico? In other words, does the world get the same set list, or do you change it from country to country?
We do sometimes, like, it's pretty interesting nowadays. You can get all the statistics from different countries, who's been listening to what and what is the favorite,
Hmm.
and sometimes you can look at that, or sometimes we ask the fans, like, okay, we're going to play this tour, and what songs would you like to hear? And we do change it a lot, but I think now when we go to Ukraine, it's more like a festival set list. So I think we're going to focus on the hit songs and give them like this, crazy sing along stuff. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. We haven't really rehearsed for that show yet, but that's kind of my gut feeling because it's a special show, going to
Hmm.
Ukraine in the middle of the war, and the whole idea is to bring them something else to think about, some joy, and of course at the same time show our support and love to Ukrainians.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I have a feeling that it might get quite emotional too, because it is what it is right now.
Right. And within 2 months of that, your new record comes out. When did you finish this new album?
It's been finished like a couple of months already now. So we recorded most of the stuff in Nashville. Worked together with Desmond Child, the greatest
Again, like
songwriter.
what,
Yeah,
third or fourth album with Desmond at this point?
it's actually the second full album, but we've written a lot of songs with him.
Yeah.
He's like my mentor. I'm so lucky to have this guy,
Hmm.
this most talented songwriter in my life. And it was a nice story how I met him, because I've been a fan of his music obviously when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Songs like I Was Made for Loving You, or Heaven's on Fire from Kiss, or Living on a Prayer, or You Give Love a Bad Name from Bon Jovi, Poison for Alice Cooper, and all these songs when
Yeah.
I was young, like 10 years old. Those were my soundtrack. Like, that's when I fell in love with rock and songwriting too. I was sucking all his, like, you know tricks inside of me, and then later on in my life I wrote this song In the Shadows, and he heard the song, and I think he must have heard himself in my music somehow, because I used his tricks.
Yeah.
And then he one day he emailed me, like, out of the blue, like, "Hi, this is Desmond Child. I love your band and I would like to work with you." And I was like, "No, this can't be. This must be a scam," But it was him, and we got together. It was already like 2007, the first time, and ever since we've been very good friends. And he's he's been writing songs with me, but also kind of guiding me and coaching me in life sometimes because I've had some hard times, and I've gone to meet him, and kind of he's been my therapist in a way, like putting me back on track and like talking sense to me. Like at one point I was gonna quit this band, and he was like, fuck no, nobody gives a shit if you go solo, and that's like, you just have to get yourself together and get the band together, and like keep going. And I'm glad that I had him to tell me that.
So you answered a lot of questions I had right there. And I find most people start working with Desmond because their record company goes, you need a hit. Here's who's going to write the hit for you or with you. So in your case, you organically, it sounds like, wanted to work with Desmond, not because you felt any pressure to have a hit song.
No, it was more like I got to meet my idol,
Yeah.
like I was like, wow. And we met him. We were on the tour, and we met him in the Dominican Republic. He came to see us perform there, and it was a cool setup. We played in this beautiful amphitheater outside, and the show was amazing. And then we stayed like 2 or 3 nights in the same hotel with
Hmm.
him, and he had brought some huge Cuban cigars, and we were drinking rum and like planning the future. And it was just like kind of super cool thing to meet him there. And it was very organic, like it wasn't an idea that came from the record label or something. I think they were happy though.
Yeah, so you mentioned the song Heaven's on Fire, and I remember reading John Bon Jovi wanted to work with Desmond Child based on Heaven's on Fire, and then that led to Living on a Prayer and You Give Love a Band Name and all that. But did you work with any other song doctors over the years, or was Desmond the only one?
I think Desmond is the only one who I
Wow.
should mention,
Oh.
like, and before that, I was feeling like I wasn't sure, was it a good idea to write songs with somebody who's outside of the band.
Hmm.
And when this opportunity came, I was like, oh, fucking hell, I'm just gonna go there and see what happens.
Sure.
And and you know how it works? Like, he's not really fully writing the songs for the artist. The artists have an idea. I have a lot
Yeah.
when I go to see him. Like, I've been writing a bunch of stuff and lyrics and like chords and melody and everything, and I have a very good idea what I want to do. And he's just like, making it brilliant and like adding that something that it needs, and it's really like he is good of hearing what's the thing about the artist, or what is the like the DNA. And in our case, I think he really enjoys the European things we have and what we do, um,
Hmm.
and that kind of Slavic Nordic sound. And I think also for him it's kind of interesting and challenging to do something like that every once in a while.
Hmm. Well, I have three quick questions and then I'll let you go. And the first one is, do you write for other artists? Because obviously you know how to write a chorus, and not every song makes your records. So some artists go, these songs didn't make the record, they're leftovers. Other artists can have them. And other people just go, if it didn't make the album, I'm throwing it away.
Yeah, I've written a bunch of songs to other artists. Like, we used to have our own label, like a record label back in the days in Finland when I still lived here. And um, we had our own studio
Hmm.
complex, and we would produce different bands and write songs for them and with them. So yeah, I've done it a lot. But it takes a lot of energy and like a lot of ideas away from your own
Yeah.
creation. Like, I'm not that productive that I could write a great song every day. No way. I mean, I have this kind of like rushes of adrenaline and inspiration that come every second month, basically, or something like that. And
Yeah.
when it comes, I can feel it like in my body, literally my belly starts to tickle, and like, I want to grab a guitar, I need to write a song. Like, it's like I can physically feel it when it's time. And then I just go for like 2 weeks, like day and night, like I don't do anything else, and I just write so many songs that I can, and then I'm out of ideas for 2 months again. And it's crazy, but
Yeah.
it's like, it's been like that for me, like always. So I
Yeah.
want to utilize that because I know how myself works.
It's not infinite, the creativity. You have to use it when it comes to you. You can't just treat it like a
Exactly.
day job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know a lot of people do. Like they wake up every day, start writing songs 10 o'clock in the morning, and like, you know, write a song every day. And I don't believe in that. You just have to feel it. Like, you have to have an idea, a reason why to write the song. It's not like 9 to 5 job.
Right. My last question or topic for you, with your years of living in Florida and being in the States and all that, New Yorkers and Florida people have this unique relationship because so many New York people move to Florida, vice versa. But they always become big snobs about pizza and bagels. And they explain, oh, you can only get the good stuff in Florida. Did you become that from your years of living in Florida? Did you become like a New Yorker in that you were complaining about the quality of food that you couldn't get it anywhere else in the States?
No, honestly, I was screaming about the Finnish bread. Finland has the best rye bread in the world. There's
Oh.
no question about that. So, these bagels are nothing.
So on your rider, it doesn't have any bagels. You're having the Finnish rye bread on your rider.
Yeah, yeah, and Finnish beer.
Finnish
Arr!
beer. And what's the best brand of Finnish beer so we know to try it?
It's called karhu. It's like bear. It means a bear.
Okay, I've got homework to do. Well, hey, thank you for the many years of great art. Looking forward to your next gig in New York. Congrats on this new album, and
Thank you.
wonderful to see what you're doing with the Ukraine.
Thanks so much. Have a nice day.
Paltrocast.